Welcome to the MOSHAPE Digital Media Highlights of 2020. This is the last broadcast of the year. My name is Guy Danhoff. We want to welcome you to the special edition broadcast, and I am joined with some very special friends and leaders right here in MOSHAPE as well as Shape America. We are joined by President-elect Anna Forcelledo, the Director of Missouri Healthy Schools, Laura Beckmann, from Shape America, special projects related to COVID, Sean Nevills, and yes, last but not least, our Executive Director, Dr. Tom Loughrey. And with that, all I can say to you as an audience is we look back at 2020, it's really fascinating to look at the amount of work, the amount of experiences, the events, the news, the people. We want to cover it all in the next, we hope to be next 40 minutes, but it's going to be a wild and fun ride. And we're going to start right away with Anna Forcelledo. She's part of SEAL Team 6. And Anna, you know, there was a big announcement made on January 15th. And why don't you talk to us a little bit what happened with Health Moves Minds and the big announcement.
Thanks, guys, so much. Yes, it was a huge announcement, but if I do this, I have to do it right. So we have to start with, hey, MOSHAPE and Shape America members. This is for you, Christy Berry. I was honored to be a part of our SEAL Team 6 Health Moves Minds Committee this past year. It has been a whirlwind of fun, exciting adventure. And on January 15th, the announcement was made that we were the first state to reach 160 schools in the Race to 160 for the hashtag Mo Tattoo for Sparks, for Jamie Sparks, the past president of Shape America. And it was initiated, it started back in November at the 2019 MOSHAPE convention. So that was a huge announcement. And then on January 24th, it was announced that he is indeed coming to Missouri on February 5th to get his first tattoo for the health side.
And what was great about that is after that, a big announcement, we all celebrated. It was fantastic work by the team. It was such a way to kick off certainly 2020. And our executive director, Tom Loughrey, he just said, okay, we got to zag. And I said, okay, if we're going to zag, then we're going to have to go live stream with Jamie Sparks. And we streamed that event. And matter of fact, it's the thumbnail, if you would, of our YouTube video, because that picture was significant in the fact that we had over 1,300 replay viewers. It was the most viewed live content we'd ever produced in 2020. And it was really cool, as we were able to talk a lot about Health Moves Minds, not just about Jamie, but you talk about having skin in the game. I certainly think our president from Shape America definitely showed he had skin in the game. And Tom, I just got to get your thoughts on this, because this has got to sound crazy when you're thinking about live streaming from a tattoo salon.
Well, this was just absolutely exciting. It was a cold, snowy evening in St. Peter's, O'Fallon, Missouri, and having Jamie come in specifically for this to get the first of the Health Moves Minds symbols tattooed on his leg, the very first one, showed how he valued what we were doing and showed how he valued the Health Moves Minds program. And this was just a spectacular evening. We give Jamie a huge amount of credit for this, but also for you, Guy, in setting this up and taking the live streaming to a national audience. We know that this is going to last for infamy, and this is something that Jamie will treasure, I know, just as we do.
Well, Tom, with that being said, just to let you, our audience know, as we want to capture 2020, we're actually going to put that replay out later today, so stay tuned for that. Now I want to shift gears, as this was kind of interesting. Shape America put out a campaign called My Career Why, and I believe you're the only one from our state that participated, but what was significant to me was you became very vulnerable, made your very first video, you put it out there, and lo and behold, it was #1 in views of any content that was produced in 2020 at the tune of over 3,200. I was wondering what that experience was like for you, opening up to this national audience for the first time.
Thanks, Guy. That was quite an introduction, and it was very overwhelming. I'm very proud of it. I'm very humbled though. It was the first time, like I said, I had put myself out there, and I was very vulnerable with it. And, you know, it took a lot of time to get what I wanted to say right, but it was at a time where I felt it was really important to share my story and share my why, because this is the best time right now for our students to, you know, create whatever mold that they want to create for themselves, and that their skies, their glass mold, there's no limit to what they can achieve. And I felt, you know, just called to share that with my students and with anybody, because it is the best time, and I love to be able to demonstrate that for them so that they can see that anything is possible.
Well, and I'll just say this, obviously your message resonated with a whole lot of people. You don't luck yourself into 3,200 views at that time. So congratulations again, stepping out of your comfort zone to then the early stages of you becoming the leader you are today by stepping out, you know, and realizing that when you start, it's going to be messy. It will not be perfect. And, you know, we talk about that in Zagging 101. Then what happened along that same time, we had Health Moves Minds. We had the Random Acts of Kindness Week. And Anna, what was that like?
And well, this was just a great lead in to, you know, to open up about why the health and physical education educators, why our HPE community does what we do, you know, and why we are teaching and, you know, driven to create an impact and to an influence and advocacy for our students. But with Random Acts of Kindness Week, it was an opportunity for students to create kind moments between each other and to create a cultural change within schools. I know from my school, that is what happened, is that when we initiated this program that whole week, we saw just the whole shift in the culture of our school between the teachers, the staff, the students, and how they were treating each other, and how they were really being drawn to lift each other up every single day and to help provide kindness for people that they probably wouldn't have thought of prior to that. So it shows you that they really do want to be kind, and sometimes we need to give them that permission with everything on the day-to-day basis. Sometimes it can get really negative, and so they're used to that. So when they're able to show kindness and spread it, it can catch on really, really fast, and it's contagious. It was really powerful.
Absolutely. As you know, that was themed throughout the entire year. We got more highlights along that. And then, Tom, I have to go back to you. We have to say thank you on behalf of our society. You made one of the biggest and boldest moves of the year. Here it is. You gave the approval for the purchase of Hootsuite, which is our social media enterprise system that we used exclusively for social listening. And secondly, you've made a decision to bring Zoom on. And at that point, that allowed us to host all kinds of creative content, from professional development to town halls. And all that led to this. It increased our influence, our ability to have more impact, and to continue and spread our advocacy. And Tom, just got to say thank you so much for that.
Well, Guy, as you fondly recall, you and I have been communicating on a very regular basis, whether it's in your office, in a Starbucks, in a bread company, wherever. And my question, all I do is ask questions. What do we need?
Right.
You need. And we already at that point were into our strategic planning. So we knew where we were going, and then we asked the question, how do we get there?
Right.
We had to have capacity. We had to have technological capacity. You and Anna and Chris and Mary provide the human capital that's necessary to make this work. And this is how we operate. We look at what is necessary, we make it happen. When we first talked about Hootsuite, we were at Starbucks. Mm-hmm. We looked at it, we went online, I got out my credit card, and we had it in 2 minutes. And so we don't deliberate, we just make it happen.
Well, absolutely. And you know, that's how we create our strategic plan, which we'll talk about in about 3 months from now. But it was very pivotal getting those two tools, because that is what allowed us to do. And just so we're clear, COVID hadn't even hit yet, and yet we made these moves. Now we're into March. Now it gets really interesting. So before COVID hits, our own Mary Dreimeyer and Sandy Moore, they attend live in person the Speak Out Day. on March 10th and 11th. And what was significant about that day, Tom, was the fact that Shape America, that hashtag Speak Out Day, was trending nationally on Twitter. I would say, as far as Shape America goes and all our 50 states, that's a huge celebration in 2020 to show what happens when we lock arms and we use the tools that we can to communicate very effectively. To me, that was one of the biggest ag moves of 2020, was to see what could happen when the HPE community bonds together. And then, of course, Anna, why don't you take us through what happens next, shortly a few days after that, and start with your own school at Rockwood.
Yeah, absolutely, Guy. Thank you. And I do want to say that, just to attest to Speak Out Day, that was the first time that I had really witnessed it, just seen Speak Out Day for what it was on Twitter. And I got to tell you, it really showed another level of advocacy to this whole piece of the puzzle, and how we can create real change at a state and national level across our entire country, and how people, it's a different form of advocacy, and then there's different levels of it, but this was something just very unique. And the fact that, you know, seeing all the real-time tweets coming in all day long, it ignited a fire underneath me, that even more so than it had already been. But it just was, oh man, it was just this wow moment that I had, that I want to be a part of that. You know, it was very powerful for me personally. So it was very cool. And so leading with that, you know, unfortunately, a few days after that, just 5 days after that, you know, I worked in the Rockwood School District, and our school district had called for the stay home for HPE at home learning to happen for across our district, and also for multiple school districts across the St. Louis County area on March 15th. So that was, it was very surreal. I think the right word to use is surreal at that moment. And then leading into March 21st with the stay-at-home order happening across all of Missouri. You know, I'm sure that I've used this before with you guys, but I think it felt like kind of the twilight zone. If people were just in this feeling of the time just started to stand still, and we didn't know exactly what to do or which way to go.
Well, you're exactly right. There was a lot of us had no idea what to do, but why don't you talk to us about a conversation you had with our own Christy Berry, which to me turned out to be perhaps the biggest breakthrough moment of 2020 for MOSHAPE, with the idea at the time, and then the launch of Chalk Your Walk.
I would love to share that moment. There's still this moment that you can't describe, you know, and that was one of those moments I can't put words to, and it was almost magical. Christy Berry had texted me and said, you know, we need to do something. And Chalk Your Walk happened as a response to this need, you know, to create a human connection between each other and our community, within our HPE community, but just really within everyone across, you know, our families and friends and people that we couldn't see because we had to now be physically distant. And so Kyle Salvo got involved with our Healthy Minds community, Terry Gardner. Then we reached out to you, pitched the idea to you. You said we were crazy, and and I was like, oh no, we can do it, it'll be fine. And we leaked some sneak peeks, and we made it all happen, turned it around in 72 hours, and you know, it was phenomenal. The data shows we have reached 44 states in over 3 countries in a matter of 48 hours. And it really did change our direction for our state, but also the direction of our whole HPE profession about how we advocate and promote, you know, health and physical education. And like the best thing, I'll leave it with this, because I talk a little bit too much right now, but the last thing I think that was the most important thing is that we experienced that basic human need to feel connection and love with each other in a time that we needed it the most.
Well, absolutely. And I've said this repeatedly, and I'll say it again. The Chalk Your Walk campaign is what turned this state around from being focused just on our November convention to now addressing the needs of our state in a very real time kind of way, which is why part of the reason why we're doing this broadcast is you're going to see more evidence of that. So Chalk Your Walk was pretty historic. The other kind of historic thing that happened is Shape America had to make this announcement that they were canceling Salt Lake City. That was a very tough decision on multiple levels, but what it did do is it ushered in a new way of us to communicate by simply using this technology that we're doing now virtually. So while it was certainly a massive bummer simply because Shape America Tampa or Shape Tampa 19 was certainly, kind of historic on many levels, we were all disappointed because we want to continue with that momentum. And now shifting within our own state, this is where I want to bring in Laura Beckmann as our director of Missouri Healthy Schools, because basically, while Missouri Healthy Schools had just launched, this was kind of the birth, if you would, of the Stuck at Home series. And Laura, I was wondering if you could talk to us about the role and the collaboration with MOSHAPE from your perspective at Missouri Healthy Schools.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Guy. Well, I will tell you that MOSHAPE and DESE's Missouri Healthy Schools, and also our Director of Health and Physical Education, our Office of Health and Physical Education, which was Sean Nevills at the time, we brought together a team. We had a communication marketing team, and we've been working together for quite a long time because we recognize that physical education and physical activity is very, very important to a person's well-being, socially, emotionally, physically, and mentally. We all know that. So it is a priority area that we know, along with CDC, is important every day for the well-being of everyone. So at this point in time, we decided we needed to act fast. We were now stuck at home. So we brought together a team. We had the executive director, Carla Weiss, from the Parent Teacher Association, and we all sat and brainstormed, how can we then address this need at home? How do we address physical activity and physical education and help even parents with ensuring that they're addressing their well-being? So we came up, we had Lisa Farmer from the Department of Health and Senior Services, who is our nutritionist, and we began to develop with the ideas from Carla Weiss of what are the needs of parents with their children stuck at home. And we came up with the Stuck at Home Recess and the Stuck at Home Snacks. We began to launch those weekly.
They were launched for 16 consecutive weeks. And Sean, I got to bring you into this conversation because you were part of that planning team. And what did you think when I suggested that we just live stream during this time? And you were going to be one of them because for the first 3 weeks, you were the host of our Stuck at Home Recess. So walk us through that experience, because I think it's kind of cool to hear it from your perspective. I know you must have thought I was absolutely nuts, or as we know today, all zag all day.
Being a classroom teacher, I couldn't fathom the idea that now I have to teach from my home using all these tools that I've never used before, an iPad, a new stand, or using a Periscope, things that you taught me, Guy, right? So thank you, first off, Guy and Laura, thank you for having me on as well with this. But I had to wrap my around this new way of learning. This was my introduction to virtual teaching. But you know what? With this team right here, we put it together. We made it happen. Thanks to Lisa Farmer for doing the Stuck at Home Snacks. And then obviously Spanker Spot, which took over for me a couple episodes in.
Well, Sean, we have to give you all the credit because you discovered them. It was my job to promote them, but look, that was such a great find. You talk about two amazing duo. Oh my goodness. Give me some Spanker Spot. Just love those two and all that they contribute, especially for 16 consecutive weeks of live streaming without missing a week. Both them and Lisa Farmer, extraordinary with that going on. And then also, Laura, there was something else that was going on about reentry guidelines. This is kind of significant because this was kind of the very first of this kind of information. I was wondering if you could share that.
Yeah, so our Missouri School Board Association recognized that we really needed to begin thinking about the reentry, you know, and so we looked at CDC's guidelines, and then we were asked by our departments to kind of think about, you know, what does it look like with reentry, with physical education, with these mitigation strategies in place, and how do we address the SEL and the emotional well-being of our students at this time in this new way of teaching. And so we began to pull in, Tom and I and Sean began to discuss sort of some guidelines, and also reached out to Shape America. And then Missouri was actually one of the very first states to push out the reentry guidelines. And this was in April that we pushed this out. And then a lot of states began to look at the guidelines and question, you know, what are we going to develop? And there was a lot of conversation, a lot of state leader meetings going on around this topic. But certainly, yes, we were a big part of the reentry guidelines for physical education and sports and before and after school activities. We also continued our stuck at home snacks and stuck at home recess, which the governor actually of Missouri recognized as an all-state announcement of some of the great things that we're doing to assist, you know, the families at home in this pandemic.
I know, Laura, when you made that announcement to us, we went crazy. It's the tune of, they would say 5150. That's a reference to Van Halen, but they call it being crazy. And no, it was so exciting to get that endorsement. And all I can say is what an honor and privilege to be part of that process. And then, Tom, I got to bring you back in here because we've been talking about how can we actually bring our message to more people. And that is when we launched MOSHAPE Minute. And I was wondering, get a little insight on that.
Yeah, basically, this is our entire social media team of you and Chris and Mary leading the way. And from my standpoint, the most important thing is to engage all of our 1,000 members.
Absolutely.
The message on a variety of platforms and have our members be able to access the necessary information in ways that they prefer, whether it be Instagram, Twitter, YouTube channels, email through MemberClick's Oasis software, everything we do. And so this is our number one concern. We're always making sure that we provide necessary information to as many of our members as we can.
And Tom, with that, not only do we launch the MOSHAPE Minute, but this is when we really brought into prominence our YouTube channel, which proved to be very invaluable come November when we talk about our virtual convention, because it made it really easy to create these playlists. YouTube, as you know, is very searchable. And it's really interesting when you look at those analytics that we've got more search than even when we put out the links initially from that convention. We'll talk about that once we get to November. And to kind of wrap out the month, you know, I sometimes I get these, now you wonder why they're called SEAL Team 6. Seriously, they just, it's like, did I sign up for Mission Impossible when you want me to help you out with marketing? And here it is. You know, Anna comes to me with this idea that we're gonna do some kind of, you know, Sparks mountain music montage. And I'm like, what are we doing? And you want to do what? You want to get clips from all over the United States? I'm like, are you simply out of your mind? And of course, with Anna, we know she is, but it's an all-zag move all day. So let's roll with it. So Anna, talk to us about this tribute that we did. And you know that we had to call, you and I called together. We had to get someone worthy of Grammy Award-winning status, hopeful someday. And Judy Lobianco, hope you're listening, Judy, because big shout out to you, because not only was this a tribute, but you were the artist that sang and performed the song for us. So with that, we love you, girl.
Yes, so Judy, we love you and thank you so much for being literally the backbone of creating the music behind making this happen. So thank you so much for that. And it was the first time that I had met her on a call with you, Guy, which was all perfect alignment when we were trying to create this. But backing up just a little bit to why this happened, you know, we had been, MOSHAPE and our Health Moves Minds Committee have been working with Jamie really closely over the past months and just creating, we were able to, by doing that and him coming to Missouri for his first tattoo, allowed us to just really create this really amazing relationship with him. And we just felt it was fitting and appropriate to say thank you. And he, you know, was not able to have the convention. The SHAPE convention was canceled, unfortunately, because of COVID. And it was it was something that is usually their final culminating event, right? And so we just really felt, like I said, it was fitting and appropriate to do so. So I saw something on Facebook and triggered something in me. I texted Christy and said, we need to do this. Let's write a song. And with all the things that were going on, and she said, what? You're crazy. Like, and I said, it's fine. We can do this. And an hour and a half later, we created a song, and we had put all these things, listed all the things that had happened and all the hashtags or inside jokes, and we called Kyle Salvo once again, because we have to have all of our SEAL Team 6 members, and decided who we wanted to be in the song. So we got all of our board of director people together. Sean, you're part of it. Guy, Tom, Laura, you were all a part of this song. All the board directors were in it as well. And in addition, we also invited Stephanie Morris, State America CEO, as well as Giulio Bianco. We also invited Yasmin and Carly Wright and Michelle Carter. They all played a role in this as well, which was just so much fun to create this big, just thank you, and have everyone be a part of it in a really fun way. So it was really unique and exciting.
Well, it was fun when it all turned out. I'll tell you what, it was a marathon in editing, though. I'm just going to say that. I'm not sure if I ever caught back up on that sleep, but then again, for that great cause, what a way to celebrate really what Jamie has done for our state, continues to give us encouragement and support. We can't thank him enough. And what a great way to pay tribute to what he did as president, even after that, and continue to support our state the way he did and does. So with that, let's get into May. And this is now, we're in the second 4 weeks of the initial launch of the Stuck at Home series. And this is going very well. And then Tom Loughrey, our executive director, had this, again, another zag move here. He wanted to create the executive edition of the MOSHAPE Minute. And Tom, we know that you and Dennis were switching off every week because it was really important to have transparency so they could hear from our leadership on a weekly basis. I was guilty, if you would, of keeping you to a 2-minute and 19-second limit, simply because that's all that Twitter allows. But you and Dennis seem to respond very well. And with that, give us your thoughts on that launch, because it also proved to be significant.
Well, it was very simple, Guy. We were pushing out a lot of content, and a lot of necessary content that teachers were looking for, related to COVID, related to teaching from home, all of those issues. And I felt it was necessary for them to hear a little bit of where we were going as a society. And I felt that if Dennis serving as president, would alternate, then they would get it from their president and from their executive director. And Patrick and I are going to continue this as we start the new year. So again, it's just another messaging tool that we feel we have to be in constant contact and provide what we feel our members could use.
Absolutely. And one of the episodes I just will never forget was Dennis when he had COVID, and how he was still our brand ambassador and advocating it, doing it daily, even at the hospital, with his strong positive messaging by wearing his shirt. And it just was one of the most remarkable broadcasts, I think, of 2020. And to finish out May, Sean, we got to bring you back in, because this was the launch of the Health Moves Minds summer series, and it was pretty cool. So why don't you give us a little insight as to that?
Yeah, and basically, we feel that it's critically important to MOSHAPE and to Shape America that we continue to promote Health Moves Minds for a number of reasons. It helps us financially. It helps the schools gain the equipment necessary. They provide charitable work, but more importantly, the social emotional learning lessons that are so highly appropriate, designed by Shape America. We feel that we need to push this information out, and I will not be satisfied until we get the almost 100% of our schools sponsoring this program. It's that good.
Absolutely. And Sean, with it, I thought you did a remarkable job really hosting these events. And just from your perspective, what was that like, seeing so many people attend?
You know, it was absolutely amazing, and just being able to host it and have professionals like Anna, like Christy, and like Kyle there to speak on the benefits of Health Moves Minds is absolutely amazing. And we know, and Tom said it, this program matters not just for the organizational level, but what we do in the classrooms for the students.
Absolutely. So with that, we wrap up May. Now we're into June, and I had to come to Tom and tell him we're out of space on Zoom. So we had to make a decision, and it was a real easy decision. Tom made it in a nanosecond. I suggested that we upgrade to the Zoom Pro platform, which then allowed us to get into something we had never done before, which was to have an all-member town hall meeting, which, as everyone now knows, is a very frequent thing, almost to the tune of once a month. We practically do a town hall. Getting that Pro version was all ZAG because it really, again, expanded our capabilities. Also in June, Dennis Stochev did something really amazing, and that was based on that board of director meeting in June. You know, the Edi Task Force was initiated, and Sean, I want to have you speak to that because I know you were very involved in that process, and I was wondering if you could share us some insight as far as that, because that again was a new ZAG move for us.
You know, part of it started when SHAPE made its, you know, its push to, make EDI one of its organizational goals. But more importantly, on the state level, Dr. Dennis Dochev, who was, our then president, and Tom decided that it had to matter for MOSHAPE as well. So, they brought me on board, me and Colin Hanna from Wentzville School District, to lead this team of people to address what EDI means for our organization, for MOSHAPE. And, it sparked because everybody's listening. You're seeing a lot of these social injustices going on in our society. What does that mean for us? Once again, what does that mean for our students, and how can we make our organization better and, address equity, diversity, and inclusion?
Absolutely. One of the big ZAG moves of 2020 for our state society. Laura, I need to bring you back in because at the same time, you were part of launching with MOSHAPE and Tom a webinar series, and again, just so much more professional development going out at this time.
Well, we absolutely knew that we needed to get more information, resources, and tools out there to our teachers. There was a definite need. So DESE, in collaboration with MOSHAPE, we began to put together a summer professional learning series. And we did it with the university. We also did it through Department of Education, in collaboration with MOSHAPE, to reach as many health and physical education professionals, to let them know that we're here to support you. We're here to provide the resources, technical assistance, whatever you need from us, we're here. And so we were beginning to brainstorm. We were listening, social listening, trying to figure out what they need. And then, Sean, of course, and I, with collaboration with the MOSHAPE, began to put together a series of webinars that were COVID-19 related. And it doesn't stop there. I mean, we were looking at future planning too, to continue this, because there was a desperate need of survival of how do I teach in this new way,
right,
and do it effectively. So a lot of things were being addressed and spoke about, and we even had some forums where we brought teachers and we just wanted to listen to what they had to say so we could learn from them.
Absolutely. And along, again, more parallel webinars, and that's when full blown, and Sean and Anna, you guys were part of this, was the Health Moves Mind webinar series that just continue in that vein. And then this was kind of yet, in my opinion, another big breakthrough, is Shape America had just launched their 30-page document, which was the reentry guidelines, and we were given permission by them to launch, now that we had capability with our Zoom platform, to do a panel discussion with Sean, Tom, and Laura. All three of you were the panelists as we broke down that, actually I should say you three broke down that document as I was moderating that event. And that was yet again an opportunity to get us on the national stage as we were breaking down that. And Tom, I'd just like to, just briefly ask you, what was that like? Because that was, again, just an amazing experience for our state.
Well, as you know, Guy, there were a lot of questions as to what schools could do and should do to protect the health and well-being of everyone. It was more than masking and social distancing.
Mhm.
It was changing procedures. It was looking at new ways to provide instruction and to verify student learning. And so all of these factors went into it, and we had a wonderful team working together. This is what we do. It's all teamwork, and it's providing the best guidance that we could at the time. This is one of those things that is always dynamic. It's changing, it's growing, it's plastic. And every week we have to look at it and see what we need to do.
Well, with that being said, you talk about changing. This is also the same time when you and I put together, we've been doing this for months, really for about 2 months. We put together the strategic plan for our social media, presented to our board of directors. And why? Because we knew we had to pivot. We knew that this was here to stay. This, we thought it might be over by now. It's not. We're in the thick of it. And we knew that we needed to do something. And it was amazing what we were able to do. At the same time, as we wrapped up June, Tom, you and I had the privilege and the opportunity to join Joey Martelli, who runs the social media for Shape America, to talk about now what's relevant in social media now today. Why? Because during the pandemic at this point, the numbers had doubled in terms of the amount of people that were now on social media, that they were turning to that, as well as YouTube also saw an explosion, as well as live streaming, which was one of my predictions back in 2019 in December, which not only did I get that right, but it happened to be the #1 trend in video in 2020, not just with us, but worldwide. So as we wrap up June, I mean, you want to talk about that webinar that we did with Joey. It's what then launched Zagging 101 in July. And now we're in July. We kick off what we just think is going to be, 5 episodes that turned out to be 12. We had I'll be honest, we had no idea that it'd become as popular, become the most watched content we'd ever did. And we're doing this on a national basis. The Zag family was created. And I'll be honest, for as much teaching and training as we did, all 4 of you had been part of that. And I loved the part once we turned off the recording and had a chance just to talk to these leaders from all over the United States as we came together and got to learn so much from that. And I also have to give a huge shout out to Lauren Krebs, which I could never have done any of that without her and her expertise and all that she brought to the table and brings to the table. So that's when we launched that. Now, Laura, I got to bring you in, because at this time, now Missouri Healthy Schools has to Zag. This is when you went to the team and said, okay, we need to get real serious. Now let's launch the new website.
Yeah, so CDC gave DESE supplemental funding. And so it was a lot more funding to then help support the schools with COVID-19 and to address, like Tom said, the fluidity and the new ways that things are always evolving based on what we're finding, the research that is being done. So it's constantly changing. And so our team came together and we all decided we're going to do a new Mo Healthy Schools website to get these resources out around the priority areas of what CDC wants us to focus on, whether it be facilities and how health and physical education teachers clean their equipment, their facilities, how often, the procedures piece, the effective instruction piece. So we began to put together this mohealthyschools.com website and utilize our social media with MOSHAPE, leveraging together and communicating together the same messages to drive them back to the support resources that were being developed and were being also shared nationally. So it really worked well for us to begin to design something to where we could push our audience, various audiences, back to each other's organizational websites to assist them with whatever needs they had.
Absolutely. And that's when, Laura, you know this, and Tom, you know this, because we had so many meetings and we talked about the key now is, as we move forward, it's to collaborate and to coordinate. And this is when we went full scale coordination with Shape America, with the Missouri PTA, even a couple of times with the National PTA. And this is when we really got to see the impact and influence of what we were doing, as well as spreading our advocacy to a level we'd never seen. And then we got involved, Laura, with Missouri Healthy Schools, the webinar, the first one with Wash Shoes, Dr. Rachel Orslin, as well as Dr. Jason Newland. It was a statewide event, and it was just really amazing, again, as they were going through all this information, but keeping it simple for all of us, because at this time, you know, we're starting to think about back to school and what a pivot that was for us. And then, Laura, you can bring in about the influence of Holly Alperin as we did even more professional development in specific to HPE.
Right. So we brought in Dr. Rachel Orslin and Jason Newland because they actually are part of a team that is doing the research on COVID.
Yep.
And at that point in time, we were really trying to just de-escalate the anxiety that a lot of our teachers were having coming back into schools, and letting them know that this is what the evidence shows, the research shows. It's okay that you do this. It's okay that you do that. If you practice these types of things, you know, you will help the health and safety and ensure the health and safety. We also went into the sports piece because, and still that was a huge concern. And sort of, it was they continue to be a part of a state team. It's called this fusion team, in which many doctors, them being part of this team, are working together to then begin to continue sending out new information based on the research of how schools can ensure the health and safety with best instruction in place. So again, but then we moved into bringing in Holly Alperin, and Sean had brought in Open, and we again, like I said back in my previous speaking, that we look to the future.
Right.
We are looking to the future, constantly thinking about how we can help to support our teachers. So we brought in these people who are very skilled and experts in skills-based health education or physical education that could look to the future of reentry and give them those strategies to teach no matter what instructional model you come back to, whether it be hybrid, virtual, and even in session, it still helps in person to affect best practice in teaching and learning.
Yep, absolutely. That was game changing. I just remember being so impressed with Dr. Orslin and Dr. Newland on just seeing this from a whole nother perspective, and the research that they presented with peer-reviewed evidence and just looking at the trending data. It was so fascinating. And I know that, you know, moving forward with Missouri Healthy Schools, we'll have actually Dr. Rachel Orslin hopefully on with me sometime in January, so she can kind of give us a 2020 recap of COVID and what's going to happen moving forward with the vaccination. So with that, as we wrapped out July, during this time, our president, Dr. Dochev, was a little on the edge, and for good reason. Now we're making finally the decision that we're going to have to go virtual on our convention. And so we had this great idea that, hey, let's bring in some people who had already been doing some planning for virtual conventions. So MOSHAPE decided to bring in Edi, executive director from North Carolina, as well as Chris Walker, who's the president-elect at the time. And they came in virtually to our board of director meeting. And a week later, Gary Lemke, big shout out to you, buddy, from Indiana, as they just got done doing their convention that they had that summer, for summer, you know, we learned a lot from those too. Again, here's where we get back to that collaboration. We're learning as much as we can because, well, we know how to stream. We certainly didn't know how to put on a convention at that time. And we want to thank those individuals for really giving us some great insight, you know, to that. So with that being said, now we're going to transition to August. And Sean, you'll appreciate this. We know that August for us football players, or ex-football players, it's the dog days of August. It's 100 degrees. The humidity is outrageous. I mean, you got to have your water bottle with you. You need like 2 or 3 of these, stay hydrated. And in the dog days of August, you know, between Tom and Laura, you put a team to work, and that was the launch of the Mo Ready Resources And Anna, you were part of that. So why don't you talk to us about that experience as our own Patrick Fine, Sally Schulte, and Brad Brummel took the leadership role, but you were part of that. So give us about that experience, because it was the most downloaded content we had in 72 hours, over 2,000 downloads.
Isn't that incredible just to think about what type of impact that created from, and what type of reach that created from social listening? You know, one of the themes that we've been talking about this entire call has been about social listening and how we utilize that as a response to what teachers needed. And one of the things that we responded to, one of the things that we noticed that teachers needed is, and myself being a teacher, I teach 7th grade health and physical education, is we needed resources. Teachers needed resources to enter the school year. And at that time, we still really didn't know where we were what type of platform we were gonna be teaching. I mean,
right.
It was such a fluid change from day to day, kind of moment to moment, even at times throughout the year. And we needed resources. And you know, our HP community on Twitter is one of the best, hands down, the best community for providing resources on social media, but we needed stuff that could be in one space. So I was really honored to be a part of this opportunity to create resources for every single platform, in person, hybrid, virtual, with specifications or modifications for students with special needs, or modifications for safety precautions that were all in line with Shape America's reentry considerations. And I really it was a very powerful, magical thing that happened, being able to come together and work together and on this project. And I just have to thank you, Laura Beckmann, for allowing us, and Desi and Tom for giving us the opportunity to create this resource, because it was, like Guy says, and we all know that he loves to use this phrase, that data drives decisions, that this was a really, really powerful thing that teachers then had access to at their fingertips.
Yeah, and with that, if you look forward, and I've given this in time to the report to you and Laura, when we looked at our virtual convention, the second most viewed content was, as they did a session, Patrick, Brad, and Sally, on their session, as they continue with more resources, again, just showing the in-demand need those resources are for our teachers, whether you're elementary, middle school, or high school. And just want to give a huge shout out to the entire group that was part of that, and also to you, Tom and Laura. That was a big ZAG move for us. And we know that information is being used very heavily. And then as we look at, Tom, I got to bring you in, because you know this is one of the most exciting times. The MOSHAPE Teachers of the Year winners were announced, and why that's so important to us, to our society. And I'll let you kind of give some brief comments on that announcement.
Well, again, it was at this time that our awards committee, led by past President Sandy Moore, the committee had made their selections based on the Shape America criteria. And we were fortunate to be able to select 4 Missouri teachers as elementary, middle school, high school physical education teachers of the year and the health teacher of the year. So we put this out, and each of them had their time in the sun, and it was really exciting to see the response.
Absolutely. And also, Tom, I got to stay right here with you, because we also had a big announcement in the world of sponsorship and collaboration. That's with Heart Zone. So give us a little bit about that relationship, because it's been nothing but amazing.
Well, again, Heart Zones has been a very cherished vendor at our convention. We've had close personal relationships with Sally Edwards, the Heart One, she calls herself.
Yeah.
And because we had the analytics through Hootsuite and all of the other things, we were able to demonstrate our reach.
Right.
That we went beyond the state. We had tremendous reach within the state, and we reached out to Heart Zones for sponsorship. And through the discussions, you and I were able to demonstrate that if they advertised with us and if they sponsored our content, they would constantly have that information out to people all over the country. And so this started a process that we hope will escalate. And this is what we do by having data driving our decisions.
Absolutely. And we just want to give a big shout out to Heart Zones. All I can say is it's just been an amazing journey, and we're looking forward to 2021 with that relationship as we even go into more things, which we got some cool things planned moving ahead. So then we get into September, and now this is where we're getting into, again, the resources are now hitting full swing with certainly Brad, Patrick, and Sally. And Laura, this is also when we did the, in line with the Shape America reentry considerations, as I know that that was very important as you laid out to us in our meetings, and that alignment. I was just speaking, I want to ask you why that alignment was so key.
Well, I first want to say that, you know, with the Mo Ready resource, that really was led by Sean Nevills. That was his lead in that project, although we collectively talked about it, collaborated on what was the need at that point. And then what happened is that we do know that Sean and I worked, we actually were like hooked to the hip and at DESE, because we know that we can support each other with different funding streams, and we want to reduce duplication and then fill in those gaps. That's what we want to do collectively, so that we can make sure that we're being effective. And of course, MOSHAPE as a huge partner in this work, and all of our professionals out in the field, like Anna and Brad and Pat and Sally, listening and learning. So in September, we know that we have legislative requirements,
right,
and these were not going to be waived. And we were like, okay, we've got to support our teachers with fitness testing requirement for this 7th and 9th graders in a virtual format. Some of these kids will not come back to school. They get to choose. Some of these kids, you know, will be coming in a hybrid because they had choices based on the feeling of whether or not their parents thought they really wanted them to come to school or not, on their safety and well-being. So at that point, we began to really talk about, look, we got to address this because people are going to start asking questions. We've got to be ready. So this group came together as they had in August and put together another fabulous resource. And then, you know, I worked with Sean in this group and all of you on this actual call to really put together some video streaming, live streaming, to support the resources and provide an in-depth overview of what they're about and how they can be utilized for our teachers. And then at that point, we brought in Spaker Spot with our Brick to Click series, highlighting these resources and getting an incredible amount of views at you know, every week to kind of support the work and the resources out there. We also had hired some experts, technical assistance experts on the side that could address any questions about these resources as well. So yes, it was a huge collaborative effort. You know, and MOSHAPE posts them on their webpage. We post them on our webpage, showing everybody we collectively are supporting these resources together.
Well, Laura, with that, we also then had a launch, as I suggested to the team, is we then launched Mo Health Media, as we needed our own platform, because now we were going beyond the scope of just HPE with, you know, our content experts and our technical, you know, folks that provided the assistance. And I mean, this was really, to me, yet another big pivot for Missouri Healthy Schools, certainly, as well as MOSHAPE. Also, there's another big announcement that happened in September, and Tom, I think you'd be most fitting to speak to it, considering he's a former student of yours. But who could have ever imagined that DESE's 2021 Teacher of the Year would be our very own Darian DC Cockrell? And what an amazing story, from gang member to being Teacher of the Year. Tom, you had him in class, and just, if you can, and kind of encapsulate the DC story, because it's just really amazing.
Yes, I worked with DC for about 2.5 years. I'm sorry, DC, you had to sit through a lot of my classes, but we had good support people, Sherry Parker and Carol Weber. He was very open and very dedicated to what he was going to do. There was a quiet confidence, and especially was able to get great respect and admiration from the other class members. They looked to DC. He was a leader at that time, and he just had the perfect personality. And for DC to be chosen as the very first physical educator to be named DESE Teacher of the Year is monumental. And to receive this in only his 7th year of professional practice shows that he is headed to the top, just as many others are. And we're just very, very proud of what DC has contributed to our profession, and especially to the community at Sappington Elementary School in the Lindbergh District.
Absolutely. And just for the record, really in the last 8 weeks, DC has been in national news 6 of those 8 weeks. It's really extraordinary how his story is catching on nationally with appearances on like the Today Show, Good Morning America. It's really amazing. His acceptance speech, last I checked on YouTube, has already reached over 300,000 views. Again, the power of social media, the power of the message. And I absolutely love his mask. And I'll just bring this out now. Tom, as you know, we got these masks right here, Adapt and Overcome. But I love DC's that says, I love PE, and what a brand ambassador he is for this profession. In DC, we absolutely love you. I hope to get you on in January, as we'd like to then talk to you now about the way you're paying it forward based on some of the funding that you're coming in receiving and the things that you're doing. So I hope to have you on in January. It's just really a remarkable, extraordinary story. To me, in Missouri, definitely one of the big ZAG moments of 2020 related to our profession in HPE here in our state of Missouri. And Sean, I know that we've got to get you back into this. This was now a big pivot time for you. You left us, and you know what? You did all kinds of great works, but you left us to go national. And we should not be happy with you, but we love you because you've done some very extraordinary things in your new position. And talk to us about this crazy thing called the podcast, because you're reaching viewers like we've never seen before either. And we just want to thank you so much for continuing to be at the forefront of advocacy, specifically in HPE.
Well, let me start with this. First off, yeah, you're right. A personal highlight for me in 2020 was getting this started with Shape America back in August. But honestly, I cannot be where I was. I couldn't be here if it wasn't for first Desi and Laura Beckmann in Missouri Healthy Schools, MOSHAPE and Dr. Tom Loughrey. But more importantly, I could not be with Shape America if it was not for you all watching our Missouri educators. Wow. It was because of all of our great work from all of these months you've heard so far, you know, during this pandemic, that I was recognized, that I got called up to the big leagues. It was because of you all that I am where I am today. And I owe it to you, and I owe it to the field of health and physical education. That's why we relaunched the podcast, to share all of these amazing highlights and success stories nationally. So thank you all. And, you know, I paid it forward to MOSHAPE because I was fortunate to have Guy, had you on, had Anna on, and I had our man Darian Cockrell on. So there you go. So thank you all for being my biggest fans. And as we hit 2021, just remember to relax, rejoice, and recharge.
Absolutely, Sean, you're the best, and I absolutely mean that. I've learned so much from you, and it's been so much fun being in the trenches, locked at the hip, locked at the arms. There we go, representing. See.
Hey,
all right, so with that,
thank you all.
Absolutely, thank you, Sean. All right, so in October, we also had a huge announcements from the Central District of Shape America. Tom, we had 3 of our Teachers of the Year that have been nominated to receive the Central District Award. And I was wondering if you could speak to that, as well as our social media team. was awarded the Kathleen Kinderfather Award. And last but not least, the last award for Central District went to Julie. We love Julie, her leadership and all that she brings us. I was wondering if you could speak to that really quick.
Yes, first of all, the Central District of Shape America encompasses 9 Midwestern states. And this has always been a bellwether district for the nation, providing leadership in a lot of ways. Julie Lukenhoff received the Honor Award from Central District. We'll receive it at the next virtual convention. And to have our social media team recognized as a Kathleen Kinderfather Award. This is an award given to people outside of our profession, but because you, Guy, and our social media team led the way, then they made an exception and brought you people with this very prestigious award. We had 4 Missouri Teachers of the Year. 3 of them were selected as Central District Teachers of the Year from the 9 state regions. And those 3 then are now candidates for National Teacher of the Year. This continues the Missouri tradition of being represented with national finalists. We have had a long list of National Teachers of the Year, and we wish them well. So again, this is really quite a milestone.
Absolutely. So October just continued with more craziness because we hosted our town hall with Michelle Carter coming all the way down to Missouri while she gets to stay wherever she's at. I believe in forget what state she's actually resides in, but Michelle got to join us and did a fantastic job with our town hall, breaking down all the new curriculum, how it tied so closely to SEL. As well as even some of the WISC model. And Michelle, we can't thank you enough. You also were recipient of the Executive Director Award in 2020. And again, very well deserved, Michelle. We just appreciate all that you do for us. And then, Tom, we did the ultimate ZAG for the first time ever. We hosted our own MOSHAPE Minute where we had a getting to know the candidates. And I got a chance to interview one-on-one with Anna, as well as with Jody. And it was just really amazing to get a chance to hear their story, their passion, as well as, you know, what they looking forward to do as they continue to serve, you know, our society. And that was really, really cool to do. And then we finished the month with the first ever live town hall called the President-Elect Debate 2020. And Anna, what was that process like? Because we completely changed the way that whole process worked.
That was intense. I think a correct word, I think that would be an appropriate word to use at this point, but it was a little intense. But you know what? It was something I think that is going to create so much more opportunity later on down the road for us to do virtual conventions, for us to do a presidential debate. And it gave each of us an opportunity to share our passion, share our vision, share our why, share why we felt that we would be the best candidate for President-elect for MOSHAPE. And I have to give a shout out to Jody Lease. Jody, I love you. You're amazing. I so enjoyed getting to know you during this time, and you are fantastic. And I'm so excited to work together with you throughout this year and in the future. So thank you very much for you. And Guy, we you know, split concrete and just made new things happen all year long. And this is once again another example of that, including leading to another Shape Prez Panel 2020 when we had our virtual convention. And I'll say the one last thing with Michelle Carter and Health Moves Minds. She was our keynote speaker for Health Moves Minds in our virtual convention, and she's absolutely fantastic, like you said. And we just felt the need to highlight the important role that she plays and the relationship that she has with us and we have with her for with Shape America, Health Moves Minds, and MOSHAPE, and just continuing to advocate for our profession.
Well, what I thought Michelle did was ZAG with social listen and really start to work the curriculum more towards that SEL level, simply because of what was going on in schools with the amount of rise in social emotional stress, anxiety. and to be able to have some things that teachers could use in the classroom, whatever platform that would be, that would, to me, was a big zag. And we were just so grateful and thankful for Michelle breaking that down for us. So with that also being said, I thought one of the big moments was having our town hall with the Shape Prez panel. Thank you to Terry Drain, Jamie Sparks, Brett Fuller, and last but not least, Jamie Sparks. And what an extraordinary event to talk about how we can use social media for the promotion of advocacy and beginning those discussions. And then that all led to the convention. And I think, Tom, would be very safe to say that that convention exceeded all expectations, given the fact that we were able to get all our content out, get all our speakers lined up, and getting all the distribution of that content and those sessions out to not only just in our state, but even nationally. So Tom, I was wondering if you would talk about that, because that was yet again another big moment for MOSHAPE.
And of course, this was a big zag for us, one of the big ones of the year.
Yep.
When you go virtual. President Dennis Dochev, who had the responsibility for directing the convention, then selected the proposals that had been submitted. And then you, Guy, and Chris, and others had to work closely with those people to make sure that you put them into the correct format that we could put them out. And so no one knows the hours that went on behind the scenes, but it came out without a hitch. There was not an issue that was left undone. And so this was the beginning. It just shows that regardless of what barriers are put in front of us, we find a way to climb over the barrier or go around, right, and make sure that we're able to do that. So when you have people who can handle technology, people that can think globally, we will continue to make it work.
Absolutely. And then speaking about just continuing, your reach, and Laura, I got to bring you in. Missouri Healthy Schools then decided to launch their first newsletter, which actually spotlighted the MOSHAPE virtual convention sessions. As we know that Drew Burris, he had the top session called Pandemic PE that reached over nearly over 1,000 views, again, for that resource, and just all the folks that, participated, all those speakers. But Laura, speak to this, because this newsletter has a reach like we've never seen before. So give us some insight as to the impact of the newsletter.
Well, we came up with the newsletter because we wanted to expand our reach and our influence and engagement. And so we began to brainstorm and put together another component of a digital media piece. And we began to pull in different pieces. One of the most important is the highlights, the success stories.
Yep.
We constantly talk about barriers, but let's talk about the solutions. Let's talk about the great things that are happening and all the good things that teachers are putting into practice. And so we definitely wanted to highlight MOSHAPE's, a few of their sessions to really show the passion, the professionalism that is going on out there, and that it can be done, that there's no barrier big enough to face, that we can come up with some solutions. We also want to show that there is support out there. And, we have, with Anna and Tom and yourself, we're all supporting in different roles and responsibilities with the expertise that we can share. And we're in it together. You're not alone. So this was sent out to 9,000 people. And within the first 24 hours, we had 4,000 opens, which means we have really increased that engagement. And we want to share with people what HPE does. What are they doing? What are the great things they're doing?
Right.
That's an advocacy piece of how we really can change education and change people's well-being.
And though, Laura, part of the other reason why we did the newsletter simply was because our content expanded. Briefly talk to us about how we expanded the cadre of trainers for HPE.
Well, we have been building this cadre for the last 2 years, and we're pulling in people that are going to attend CDC trainings. They've been doing this for the last few years. Julie Lukenhoff, Kathy Crawford, our HECAT trainers. We have Terrell Garner, who is a CSPAP trainer. We got a lot of trainers, right?
Yep.
And so these trainers are then taking, we've pulled in 3 to 4 more. They're going to CDC trainings, and then they're going to come back to Missouri and disseminate either a training of trainer training and or just trainings to school personnel. And I will say with the whole Missouri Healthy Schools, it's really around the whole school, whole community, whole child model,
Right.
which are the 10 components that support the health and safety of children, that get them engaged and feel supported and get them challenged in their academics. And health and physical education are 2 of the 10 components that have been strongly showing research and the evidence to support that they can create cultural and behavioral change if they have been given the chance and policies and practices are supported by the administration.
Absolutely. And with that, you know, we talk about the reach, the impact of the newsletter. Tom, you and I were both invited earlier this month on December 1st. So I remember it vividly like it was yesterday. Sal Edwards, you know, with Heart Zones, brought to our attention that the state of Missouri was at about 45% of utilizing funding specific to the CARES Act. And we acted so promptly that the very next day we did an emergency town hall, and you and Brad Brummel presented on the importance of this funding that is out there. So this is not a grant, but it's funding available to schools. And at first, you know, we reached a live audience of about 60. The next day, it kicked up to 200. But then when we did the next newsletter for Missouri Healthy Schools, that number went from 200 to over 600 replay views of that session. So all those people that decided to watch that broadcast has a better idea now how to go after this funding. And Tom, to me, as we wrap up 2020, this to me was one of the ultimate zags, because here's real money that's available, that can be accessed. And I was wondering if you could speak to that, because to me, this was a big zag move. And I want to say thank you for acting so quickly when we decided to go the very next night to host this town hall.
Well, again, that shows our flexibility. We have our strategic planning, but we also have a rapid response. When there is a need, we are able to act because we have our social media team that knows how to put it together. And we immediately send out the message about the town hall meeting. We were able to get people together and present information about the CARES Act and what that is to provide funding for technology and all subject matters. And it's very important for our members to be able to ask. Number one thing, go in and ask for what you need and to demonstrate that. So again, this was an example of how we are able to act in less than 24-hour notice. So again, thanks, Guy, for helping with this. And that's how we work.
Well, as I like to say, that's how we roll. I mean, Tom, it was an amazing 2020, but the conversation doesn't stop there, because what's going to happen in 2021? I like how I did that. 2021, what's going to happen? And Anna, why don't you talk to us about Zag Talk? What is Zag Talk, and why are you part of it?
Zag Talk is very exciting, and it is going to just provide an opportunity to continue that conversation, that the magic that really has happened during Zagging 101, you know. And that's one of the things I loved most about Zagging 101 was when the cameras turned off, everyone was able to just share their feelings, their insights, their opinions, and people were able to be raw and vulnerable, and they could ask questions, and they had so many powerful conversations and those moments every single week. And that is what created our Zag family, hands down. Was, I mean, in addition to the content, because content is king, and what you all did and what we created was just so wonderful and very powerful. I've said that word many times today, but it really was. But it was the aftermath, that conversation where we could ask, you know, Dennis Dochev, Brett Fuller was one of our presidents, American President Brett Fuller, President-elect Terry Gardner. I'm so sorry, Terry Drain. She had came in and was one of our regulars. You know, I've met my soul sister, Michelle Huff, and we were able to converse, but Zag Talk will just be a continuation of all of that. And just being able to talk about relevant things that are going on in our HP community and how we can continue to create an impact and reach and advocacy for our profession. It's going to be really, really fun. We will have surprise guests. So you never know what's going to happen. Guy, you know that our pilot will include you and I and Michelle, and you never know what's going to happen. So I'm very pumped about it.
Well, one thing's for sure, there'll be some Zag bombing going on with special guests.
Oh, yeah.
You know that. And Laura, I'm really excited because, oh my goodness, we're going to launch Zag Academy sometime later in January. Speak to us about that importance, because this is going to be a resource about social media for leaders and for teachers.
Thanks, Guy. Well, I'll tell you what, you're the expert. You are the expert. And we're very grateful to have you as a team member, because you have taught us a lot. You're using the research with the data that shows what is working, what's not working, and you're ready to pivot with that research, because right now that's the main word. We're pivoting because of the different way these different digital communication systems are being used, whether it be for education, advocacy, information, resources. They're being used for several things, and it's very competitive at this time. So how do we continue to create more engagement, and how do we assist people to utilize it to the best of their ability to engage all types of stakeholders within the education system, whether it be the parents, the administrators, the teachers, the nurses, the counselors, everyone that affects a person's well-being. And so the Zag Academy is going to be very influential in assisting people, letting them know the research, letting them know the best way to reach their audiences, and taking that all of the incredible information that you're simplifying for them, right, to begin to be their own influencers or social media strategists in the best way that they can. So we're grateful, because this is going to help everyone with utilizing these different communication platforms for whatever need or reach or engagement they're longing for. So that's what I'm really excited about.
Well, thank you, Laura, and thank you, Tom, because I know that both of you collaborated on this. This is a big strategic initiative for both Missouri Healthy Schools as well as MOSHAPE. The timing couldn't have been better, simply because a lot of the platforms have changed, especially YouTube. Oh my goodness, there's a lot to unpack. Same thing with Instagram. We've got a lot to unpack on all the new things, how the algorithms have shifted, how we can best effectively use some of the new bells and whistles or features. So timing couldn't be any better for us to be able to roll this thing out, later in January. And then wrapping up, two more things for 2021 is, Tom, I know that we're going to be reaching out and engaging with our young and future professionals like we've never done in the past. This is no lip service. We need to get our young people involved. They have so much to bring to the table. This is the time that we're going to bring this group together. And Tom, I want to end on this. Patrick's theme. Our new president, Patrick Fine, he said that his theme is going to be on connect and engage. And when you hear that, connect and engage, what does that mean to you as you look forward to 2021 for MOSHAPE?
Well, when we look back at 2020, we know that we had a solid, high quality team of social media experts leading us. Now we have to drill down. We have to increase the number of influencers. We need the future professionals and the new young professionals to join in and be a part of that influencers so that they have the technology, they have new ways of putting out information. We want them on their team. We have to listen, an important social media skill.
Yep.
We listen, we empower them to be a part of us. and to lead us. We have to listen to our young members and people like this. So this is exciting to me. We have a spectacular social media team, as I've mentioned, with Guy, Chris, and Mary, plus our board of directors in support. But we also have to mention, people are not aware of the fact that we have weekly social media committee meetings, and that helps guide us in all that we do. And the last thing that I will promote is that if anybody wants to see the body of work that is being conducted here, go to MOSHAPE YouTube. And if you go to MOSHAPE YouTube, you will have access to everything that has been done. So thanks, Guy. Thanks, Anna and Laura. I love these working relationships. And let's make sure that 2021 far exceeds what we were able to do this past year.
So with that, I think it's only fitting I need to tip my cap. Anna?
Oh, no. Guy, I have a Zag bomb for you. Sorry.
It's time to, we have a what?
I have a Zag bomb for you. I'm surprising you because I have to say thank you to you, because when you came on back in February and with your job as your role as digital marketing manager for all social media, that's why all of this happened. So I have to say thank you to you, because you are the one that has been this driving force behind all of it and making us look phenomenal, because that is what you do. And you've said over and over again that your job is to increase the reach and impact and just make it look as good as possible, and that you have done that above and beyond. And so I think I can speak for Tom and Laura and everyone in our MOSHAPE in Shape America community that just says thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. We could not have done this without you. So thank you.
Anna, thank you. And this is almost becoming a Jerry Maguire moment. And I want to cheer up on, you know, going live right now nationally. I'm very grateful, thankful for the opportunity. I'm also grateful and thankful for the amount of support that we get nationally, and also just the encouragement I get from people that continues to support what we do with zagging. And really, zagging is pretty simple. It's just a matter of just thinking different. It's a matter of taking advantage of opportunities. I'll be honest, most of the social media things that we do, and I'm going to speak directly to the camera. If you're a state listening, you can do these same things that we're doing. There's nothing remarkably, you know, that you need all this technical expertise. The truth of the matter is, when I teach in Zagging 101, the number one reason why people don't get started is they don't feel like they have the skill set. And I'm here to tell you that each and every one of the folks that are on this right now, Anna didn't do a video before. Her first video, 3,200 views. Tom had never done a video before. Laura had never done a video before. They stepped out of their comfort zones, and we're seeing the impact, the increase in our influence, and of course, most importantly, as we continue to do advocacy, as I had the privilege of having on Zagging 101 with Stephanie Morris, and that was certainly one of the most special Zagging 101s because of the opportunity to learn from her as we continue to advocate for this profession. And so, Stephanie, I want to say thank you for these hats. And to our team, Laura, all I can say is I love our weekly team meetings. Tom, I love when we get together, because that is where the magic really happens. It's in the planning. I know that maybe sometimes we make it look easy, but that's because we practice, we rehearse, and we plan. I'm just being very transparent, and you can do the same. You know, shout out to Kim Ballard. Kim, you were afraid, I mean afraid of doing videos, and now every Monday I look forward to your videos. Why? Because you have something really important to say that's on your heart, and it's resonating with people. And there's others of you out there that just need the nudge. I'm telling you right now, 2021 is that nudge for you. So with that, I just want to say Happy New Year. Thank you all for an amazing 2020, to every one of our members, and certainly everyone in the HPE profession and community. We're all in this together, and just an extraordinary broadcast. And for Anna Forcelledo, Laura Beckmann, Tom Loughrey, I am Guy Danhoff. We want to thank you for watching the special MOSHAPE Digital Media Highlights of 2020, and Happy New Year.